Hey everybody, it's Rob here. The Season 8 public test starts today. In fact, you can already download the patch right now here on the launcher on Battle.net. And today I want to talk with you about some of the top builds that I'm looking forward to test on the PTR, as well as give you some early outlook. I think what's going to be very popular here to play. The planner is already updated. I'm going to link this below here, and you can already, on default builds here, you can already add the boss powers, you can already add the new items, and basically start cooking your builds here for Season 8. And I've already started cooking quite a lot of builds, not for every character. We will talk about every character, every class, but I only made specific builds here for the Barbarian, the Sorcerer, and the Spiritborn. All three classes I think are going to be pretty popular and also going to be the classes that I'm looking forward to test the most here. So starting at number 1, what else would it be, is the Barbarian. And the first build here that I'm most hyped for is the rework to Gore's Devastating Grasp here. This is going to be hopefully, finally, like a viable direct damage Whirlwind Barbarian here. You guys can see here like how crazy you can kind of proc these explosions. And this is going to be the Gore's, and it's going to probably proc even more than what I can do here right now already on T4. So this is going to be one of the most fan favorites build, like a spin to win playstyle. And this time, maybe even without earthquakes and just utilizing the big explosion here of the Gore's Devastating. They are buffing this from 80% to now 600%. Like it's going to be basically giving you 7 times the damage just for these explosions here that basically occur. You see this fire explosion, and the AoE is pretty big. And that is going to be the first planner here that we want to look into. So we can click on Barb here, and I made in total 3 Barb builds. The Earthquake Barb is still going to be pretty strong, so you're still going to be able to play, you know, the normal Earthquake version. And we are looking to utilize on Whirlwind, I think is the strongest power, the Wandering Death, the one that they showed us during the showcase here. And this one basically gives you a 50% multiplier on rank 1, as well as a ton of extra damage here. And I think we can re-trigger this with our Whirlwinds here. And obviously Earthquake is going to lose some stats here. You also need to add some movement speed because you use the Witch powers. You lose the Occult Gems. But I think still that the Earthquake Barb is going to be pretty popular. But then here, the one I want to really play, but the one I'm like kind of cautiously about, is the pure Whirlwind, where finally, you know, your Whirlwind is your real DPS, and you can get a ton of ranks here onto your Whirlwind. Like when you put your stats into it, you see I already have rank 17 and I didn't even master work much. So you can get ranks from the Shaco, you can get a ton of ranks from the Gores, and you can get a ton of ranks from the Starless guys. So the Whirlwind is going to get a tremendous buff, and I think it's going to be a pretty strong skill. But again, we need to be a little cautious here because it's going to be tough to compete with the Earthquake Barb. But however, this is going to be the first build that I want to try. And if it doesn't like work out that well, you can always very easy transition here to the Earthquake. And then, you know, the PTR is there for exactly this. We want to give some feedback for Blizzard and see maybe it needs some help for the pure Whirlwind. But for now, I'm pretty optimistic, or cautiously optimistic here about the Gores. We will see how exactly the mechanic works. Then we have, and this is for the new boss ladder, they're adding like a ton of new bosses. So this might be one of the strongest builds now. It's a Mighty Throw one-shot build here with the new gloves, giving us also a 7x multiplier every 12 seconds. And also we have the new aspect here, giving us another 6x, 500% damage. Once we put this aspect of delayed extinction on a 2-ender, it's going to get double the bonus, plus the cooldown multiplier. And they've already confirmed that the third blade is going to add the max 75 multiplier. So we're looking at 6 times 1.75 from just this one aspect. We're going to get 10 times the damage when we put this on the 2-hander combined with a third blade. So this also makes your Mighty Throw into a core skill, and we can then utilize the Unbridled Rage here for even more DPS and a lot of core multipliers from Air of Perdition, from the Starless Sky. We get a ton of core ranks. I'm going to put the planner also below, and I think this is going to be particularly good now that they make T4 somewhat harder, that we're going to see all the stuff coming out here, going strong for the one-shot boss killer. And basically just spawn the boss and then one-shot it. And you know, that might need some tweaking for the bosses, because I really don't want to keep one-shotting the bosses. But this is what we can maybe expect it to look like. They showed this here, like you basically throw your mighty throw and boom, everything explodes here. It's a pretty strong skill, and we'll see how it's gonna feel. It's not gonna be good for speed farming, but this is certainly gonna be a boss killer to be reckoned with, and probably even a nice end game build. We'll see about that. Then the next build I want to show you here is another class that we're gonna check out now, and this is gonna be the Sorcerer. There's 2 builds that I'm a bit excited about. This is the Ice Shards here. They're adding a new helm here for the Sorcerer. Unfortunately, the helm slot is pretty competitive, and I've talked to quite a lot of Sorcerers that kind of feel that this is gonna be a bit problematic DPS-wise. We have this like hail of Verglass here, but you know, if it's gonna be bad with the Ice Shards, they're gonna buff it, and we need to test it so we can give feedback on this. And I really hope that this is gonna be strong, and that the Ice Shards, it's a cool, unique playstyle. I think we haven't really played Ice Shards since before Season 1 even, and it does look really cool. There's some pretty cool combination possibilities, especially here. The aspect of Piercing Cold is super strong, and the new helm is looking pretty decent with a ton of ranks to Ice Shards, as well as int percent and max life percent. And then we'll also see how the new overpower mechanic with the Xen rune will work for this. I'm though pretty excited about the visuals and just playing this build again, because it's one of the OG builds that I played like when the game launched. I played some Sorcerer, and this was one of the builds that was pretty strong early on. So Ice Shard Sorcerer, very much looking forward to that. And then there is another build here revolving around the, what is it called? The Andariel's Flaming Skull Witch Power here. Or boss power, I should say. We gotta like get updated with the vocabulary here. This one adds a ton of burn damage, and the basic principle with this Sorc build here is to go full on burn damage. We use Incinerate, trigger the Wandering Death, and then we basically spam Ball Lightning, and that's gonna hopefully trigger a lot of burns. Like, this is also a lot of speculation. We don't know exactly how strong it's gonna be, but there's a good chance for this to be insanely strong, because 1800% base damage for 5 seconds, all your other attacks. So every time your Ball Lightning attacks, you're gonna get one trigger of 1800% base damage, and this scales with your levels, and this scales up to rank 20 if you level those boss powers. So potentially very strong here. It's gonna be like a burning Sorc. We basically have you know, like all the various burning multipliers. We have basically an uncapped key passive here with Combustion. We stack a lot of burning damage here, especially in the Paragon. We get like a ton of stuff to burning damage. We have the Eliminator Glyph. We have, I think, Flame Feeder, and basically all the burning multipliers here. Torch, for example. So there's a ton of multipliers for this, and yeah, the base seems pretty high. So maybe we'll see a lot of these boss power builds. In general, I think, and I also hope, that these boss powers might spawn some new builds of their own, where they basically rely around the boss power and really have a big impact from the season theme into builds and build creation. But that remains to be seen. So that's the 2 Sorc builds I'm excited about. Then coming on to the Spiritborn here, we have 2 builds that I'm excited about. It's the Firestorm Spiritborn. They've showcased this in the campfire chat here with the new items here. And you can see you can pick up these feathers and then create this like big firestorm that I hope is gonna deal some decent damage. You certainly have a lot of multipliers with a lot of the different tags that you get for these. And this could be, I could see, one of the best speed farming builds in the game if the DPS can hold up. And some people might be a bit off-put that you have to basically pick these feathers to proc it, but I've done some testing here in-game. As long as you play both of the Storm Feather aspects, you can basically just use your focus skills here. You see, it spawns a ton of feathers, and then I can just click my focus skill, and it automatically picks all these feathers here. So you don't really have to do much if you do these, if you like run these aspects that I have in the planner here, they're gonna be picked automatically, and you can basically just play the game normally. You can like use, I don't know, like a basic skill or whatever, and then basically just run around, teleporting to the enemies, or you use Soar, and then you see all these feathers just gonna get automatically picked up. This is the falling feathers and the recalling feathers aspect here that you can utilize in this build. And then like you create this mighty firestorm and you don't have to worry about picking up the feathers. And I think this is going to be a very strong and new, unique build that I'm looking forward to rock and test here. And then there is another one here, and this is the reverse flash. Many of you might remember it. There is a new aspect here. It's the rip and tear aspect that I put on the amulet here. And this one basically will use the rushing claw. And on top of this aspect that we get, we also get a change where the poised rushing claw grants you 20 stacks, and every stack gives you 25% multiplicative damage. And that's going to be insane because you can even get more rushing claw charges if you want for even more multiplicative damage. And you can also get the ranks to Swift here. And Swift is the passive here that reduces the cooldown of your mobility skills based on how far you move. And what a finished build might look like. This is obviously footage from last season, but just look at this. This was the reverse flash rushing claw build here, doing a pit 100. Now, obviously, they have changed a lot since last season with the Spiritborn, just to get you an idea of the playstyle though, when you can perma rushing claw, and just as a proof of concept how it is definitely possible to have perma rushing claw, and with that also speed farm the pit 100. We'll see with the new scaling, we'll talk about that for a second here as well. But this is definitely a build that I could also see next to the Firestorm Spiritborn to compete for some of the best speed farmers, especially just like, you know, farming, doing like T4 content. Even with the increased difficulty, I think this build is going to remain pretty potent. We'll see on the PTR, like if it's not, you know, there DPS wise, I'm pretty sure we can give feedback and Blizzard can adjust these builds to be, you know, at least viable for some of the pit builds here, because the Spiritborn, after shining so bright in Season 6 with Vessel of Hatred launch, has been lacking behind a little bit. In fact, right now, it is the lowest ranked class and only did like a pit 130 something, so it's not really like doing any high pits right now, and it could certainly use some love, and I think they are ready to give it to the Spiritborn, because we're getting the Firestorm, and we are getting this Rushing Claw. You kill bosses, and you can permanently teleport. This reminds me a lot of the Dash Monk. If you remember from Diablo 3, where you can basically just dash, 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 and this is like Rushing Claw, Rushing Claw, Rushing Claw. And you see here, even on a single target, like back in the days, this was played with Toxic Skin. Obviously, you would play like a pure Rushing Claw version, but this is basically like speedrunning the pits. I'm going to link this video below. And yeah, overall, I'm super excited. There's like a ton of cool builds here to play. We talk quickly about the other classes as well. So I mainly focused on Barb, Sorc, and Spiritborn. I didn't talk about Druid much. I think Druid, the Cataclysm, might still be the best build, because even though you can't snapshot like that easily, I think there are still some snapshot elements, and Cataclysm still looks strong, and then maybe even Stone Builds, but I haven't made any planners yet. The same kind of goes for the Necromancer. So the Bloodwave seems to be damage divided by 100, like still a pretty solid build with Bloodwave, and that's something to say, like you lose 2 zeros in damage and Bloodwave is still pretty strong. But there might also be some summoning Necromancers, and Bone Spear Necromancer is also looking pretty decent now. We'll see how that's going to turn out in the PTR, but overall nothing too exciting, I feel personally, for the Necromancer. And this is similar feeling that I share for the Rogue as well. You get like all this like poison trap and like trap rogue stuff, but you know, the traps are always feel kind of slow. Like you have to place them on the monster, then they have to like build up, and then they detonate. It's like a very slow playstyle, and I much prefer, you know, like the Barb with the Whirlwind, or the Sorcerer with the Lightning Spear, going to be still pretty strong. Hopefully the Ice Shards, and you know, some of that stuff that I've showed, some new builds. And on the Rogue, I don't really feel that much excitement. It's also my least played class. I think Rogue overall is one of the most balanced classes, and probably something that other classes could learn a bit from in terms of balance within the class. Like Rogue has a lot of solid builds, but it doesn't really have any OP and no overpowered builds, right? So with that being said, guys, I'm super excited to jump in the PTR. I also wanted to share this once more with you. I calculated the new pit level scaling. It's not said that this is 100% true. This is just a good estimate, but it does seem to reflect the numbers that Blizzard have been sharing with the new, the old Pit 76 being T4 difficulty now. So we are looking at a 6.5 multiplier in health on Torment 4. Alongside the build nerfs, we are looking at 17.5 times the health in Pit 100. And we are looking at around 73.5 multiplier. So you will need 73 times more damage to clear Pit 100. And they said it's impossible, and I really hope it's going to stay somewhat true and not that we see 150 like, you know, on the first day of the PTR. We'll see about this. I hope you enjoyed, guys, and let's just jump on the PTR today and let's get testing. Again, pre-download, you can already download it on the Battle.net PC app. I'll be live here in a few hours and then we will rock. We're starting with Woman Barb, planners below. Let's go. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.